we all have seen the state of Halo in the year 2026. Not great, right? The new release, the remake of the campaign has gone over not exceptionally well. It hasn't sold wonderful. And you've seen a lot of people talk about, man, if the old devs were on this, what could have happened here? We've seen that all the time. Well, Niles Sankey, who worked on Halo 3, and we talk about Marty O'Donnell all the time. He was huge in the tone of Halo, the feel of Halo. Did the original score for Halo, hired the voice actors, hired a lot of people that made very important plays and played big parts in Halo. Well, Niles, from what I understand, was a big part of Halo 3, finishing the fight. Okay, he was a developer here, and he had this thread here, which is really resonating with a lot of folks. And for a lot of folks, it's a bittersweet but also hard pill to swallow. Rev, have you seen this thread from Niles Sankey here?
I have not, but I've seen some of his posts making fun of Halo Campaign Evolved. He's definitely he's popping off, so I'm curious what's going on here.
He says, as someone who worked at old school Bungie in its heyday, I just want to be honest about the, quote, hired the old Halo devs back post. Hard swallow pills. It would be very difficult or impossible to resurrect the old magic, and it's very unlikely this will ever happen. By the way, this is not limited to Halo. It's a generally true to most creative endeavors in multiple collaborative mediums. Here's why. The devs are not the same people they once were. People change, tastes change, and personalities, priorities change. They're likely not as hungry or driven as they once were. It doesn't mean they're less talented per se, but they're just not the same people. And I want to go through this and kind of hit these one by one as we go. Phoenix, I see you shaking your head. Let's go. Let's go point by
statement. Yeah,
I agree. I want to go point by point as we go. We'll read through, then we'll go point by point through. Okay. Number 2, the magic of old school Bungie was a very specific formula of talent stacks and personality types. You generally need X percentage of this old formula for success. Remove one piece and you might not see a big difference. Remove multiple pieces and the formula totally collapses. You could feel the slow degradation of Bungie over the Destiny years. It was a death by 1,000 cuts, 5 to 10 specific cuts that doomed the studio. You can't just hire a few old school devs and expect it's going to be like the good old days. Point 3. Many of the old schoolers didn't like working with each other, or they grew to resent each other. This is a very common trend in creative productions. Great movies are made by people that end up hating each other. Great albums are made by artists that will never speak to each other again. Game dev teams are like a high drama family that isn't bonded by blood. Some of the most insanely talented people I know don't like each other, but both were required for success. It's just a fact of life and the human condition. And 4, I'm not convinced that most gamers actually want another innovative Halo. I think they mainly want to recapture the feelings they had back in the day. They want nostalgia, but Halo games were very forward-thinking at their time. It's hard to resolve nostalgia with innovation. Many of the old devs are very innovative thinkers. They would make changes that would upset the fan base. This presents a monkey's paw solution. All that said, I do think Microsoft should 100% be consulting with the old school Halo devs. It'd be foolish, very foolish for them not to do this. It would be beneficial, but it would only expect marginal returns. It's not going to fix the fundamental problems. Please don't read this post as a black pill. I'm simply giving my honest views based on my experiences, and it's always better to have realistic expectations. I'm actually very optimistic. The future is very bright. Elite game development is alive and well. It resides in the heart of young developers who are passionate and willing to sacrifice their livelihoods to change the world. We need more resources pushed in their direction. As always, I encourage everyone to support honest indie game devs. There's a lot there, and I think there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah, I agree with almost everything kind of there.
It is a black pill.
You think it's a black pill?
No. Oh, yeah. To me, it feels like a black pill. Just because I think he's right in the fact that you can't really recreate that old magic that these studios had. and I don't really know what the answer is. I'm obviously not a game dev. I don't know the ins and outs, but it does feel like a black pill. I don't really know how you can recapture this stuff, but I think things have changed and it's not really going back. A lot of the developers don't even know how to even produce what they did 20 years ago. Like, even with Halo campaign evolved, they had the source codes. Like, they just didn't know what to do with it. And I don't know if that talent is just not there anymore. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if that talent's there or it's being warded off because there's so many political and social barriers going on in the industry, but it does feel like a black pill to me.
Phoenix, you feel otherwise because
that's just facts. So what he was saying. It was I don't want to step on you. Say what you're going to say, and then I can.
Well, no, I was just going to say I feel I very much, as I read each one of these things, like I very much, it very much resonated with me as somebody who is, like, I go back to, 15 years ago with Screw Attack. People ask me all the time. Like, I had 3 people ask me this week, hey, are you going to buy Screw Attack back? And the answer is no. I'm not going to buy Screw Attack back because for the exact same reason. Like, I tried, right? I tried that. They wanted $100,000 for the brand, a dead brand. They were trying to overvalue my nostalgia for it. That's what it is. It's nostalgia. People say, hey, I want a new Halo made by the old people. They say, hey, I want a new Screw Attack made by the old people. No, you don't. You want to feel like you did when you first watched or played Halo, right? That's what nostalgia is. It's a powerful drug. And just like what made, like, I once again, I'm just using my personal antidotes here. When we made videos about games that you liked 10, 15 years ago, right? Let's say I made when we talk about a game, I'll say, oh, we do a video about Sonic the Hedgehog. There's nostalgia tied to that, right? It's you experiencing nostalgia over a game that you played, and now people are experiencing nostalgia about a video they watched about a game that they played when they were a kid, right? So there's multiple layers to the nostalgia. That's the cold hard reality of it. Is nostalgia is a horrible drug, and it's probably the most powerful drug in the world because people look back now and they go, "Oh, it's such a better time this then." So I can definitely relate to this. As far as number one, he says the devs aren't the same people they once were. People change. Absolutely. You see this all the time. Think about just in Hollywood, the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, going back to you being on a set now, there's people who wouldn't be on a set with any of these people that know what a woman is or refuse to take the jab because they were endangering people. People are so tribal now, and those tribes exist. They just weren't as pronounced as they were, back when you were developing out Halo or making videos or whatever in 2010 or whatever. That's just the way it goes. People change. It is what it is, and that's just a fact of life. Phoenix, I'm sure you can talk about projects.
I could. This is something because I love this whole thing, and I could talk forever about this. And but so I'm not going to do that. I would just say I agree completely with this. Every one of these things, from my own personal experience, I've been on projects where they're like, we need to recapture that magic. You can't, guy. For every single thing that he's saying here, even down to when he was saying that a lot of people in the creative space wind up hating each other. It's true. And this is something that maybe people that are not in the creative space may not be able to understand. So like, for instance, ideas to creatives, when they say that's their children, they legit mean that as like it is the same. It is on the same trajectory of having a child, right? This is something that came from you, and you put it out in the world, and that's why they get hurt. But their feelings get hurt if you don't like it, or this isn't, because it's a piece of them that they're putting out there. And so when you have a bunch of creatives in a room, that's each and every one of them saying, here's my child, and my child is right. It's the best child of all time. The other one's like, no, my child's right. And somehow you have a project lead that gets you on the right track. They pick the right kids that are going to make up this thing, and then that's it. Trying to get them in a room again, probably not going to happen because the egos and all that other stuff and the creative energy is not going to work there. Also, I would even say from this too, that people are forgetting is that Halo was a perfect trilogy. It said what it needed to say. It exhausted every mechanic. I mean that in a good way. It exhausted every story element, and then it concluded. And I think that that's why we can't, quote unquote, recapture that magic, because it said what Halo needed to say. I think the best thing that people need, what I wish that people would do, is leave Halo alone now. Take the energy, the philosophy, things that we learned from Halo, listen to some of those old devs, and then create something new with that in mind, because you can't redo Halo. It was already perfected. It was a period of time where that kind of shooter was like the thing. They exhausted the thing to the right, just at the right point where you're like, okay, I don't see it getting much better than this. Now we leave it alone, and now we do something else with it. So I could talk forever about this. Like, it even would spawn into, and again, I'm not going to get into this, but it would even spawn into, like, this is exactly going to what my issues with AI would be, is that AI can only simulate this thing. AI could probably give you that Halo game that you want, but it's not the heart, soul, and energy of what that team gave you, because it took all those numbers listed there, all those scenarios to come up with that thing, and now it is done. So all you can do is recapture that magic. Like Agent 64, I think, is a perfect example. That's a game that's on Steam now. Harkens back to the old GoldenEye era, right? And it's a very good game, and people are loving it. Put a new player there, they're not going to really enjoy it. It's essentially just a nostalgia trip back to that time period where you can once again reclaim, like, oh, it feels good to be here again. But it's not advancing the FPS genre forward. It's not doing any of those things. And so it's really just for artists and creative people to want to come together to do something. I guarantee what they don't want to do is, hey, let's go backwards. They want to do new things. They don't want to be constrained to going back. And this would apply to whatever job you guys have, probably. You don't want to go back and rebuild the old thing that you made. And you saw this with even, I could be a little wrong here, I believe some of the old Rare team did make, was that game called, it's not Banjo-Kazooie, it's the other, Ukulele, something on Ukulele.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that wasn't so great because, again, they were trying to recapture something in a time period where that had already exhausted itself out.
Right.
And it just, you're trying to take something very old and bring it to now, and it just doesn't work. Try and take yourself back when you were younger, that mindset, and bring it into now. It's just not going to apply. Part of it would even be cringy. You know what I mean? Things that you laughed at back then don't apply now, etc.
Sure. Yeah. Like I look, just personally, I look back at stuff that I did 20 years ago and I'm like, ugh, right? And it is cringy, but at the same time, like it's part of your journey, right? It is what it is. You laugh at it. You say whatever, right? Rev, I'm curious. You said it's a red pill. I actually look at it as the complete opposite, right? Or you said a black pill. I'm sorry. But from a black pill perspective, like that tells me like it's all, you know, like we're never going to see that again. And it's just true, right? We're never going to see another Halo like we saw the first time around. But the message from Niles, I think, is bigger here. The idea of like, look, there are still people who are out there, young people who are getting up and they want to make their child, as you mentioned, Phoenix. And they're going to go out there and they're going to make their baby, their game, and it's going to be awesome. And then guess what? 10, 15, 20 years from then, someone's going to go, you should make another game like that. And they're going to go, I don't know, I've already done that, and because nostalgia is a very powerful thing, as I said many, many times. And no matter how good they make a new Halo, it's never going to be good enough, right? It's because nothing's going to match that nostalgia that you felt the first time around. If I was, once again, if I was to go back and start Screw Attack over again, which I'm not going to do, it wouldn't be as good as it was the first time around. Like Marty actually, I think, nails it here. He says, Niles is right. It was a brief shining moment that never be forgotten, right? Just enjoy the ride, But Rev,
that's really what I mean by the black pill. Right. Yeah. Like, I don't think things are hopeless for the industry or anything like that. I think it's like it's a hard pill to swallow, as we're all talking about here. Just you'll never get that sort of state ever again, and that's really hard for a lot
You'll
of
get
people
new
to
states.
accept. Yeah,
Yeah, real fast. Like I think a very, very fast example would be if, let's say, you loved a Justin Bieber, and when he was really young and he's singing about getting the girl and all that stuff, and now fast forward 50 years from now, and you want him to go back on stage and write new albums like he did when he was 14. And it's a 90-year-old saying, "Baby, I'm gonna meet you at the club." Like, it just doesn't fucking work, right? Like, you need to move forward with that. You can hold on to that all you want, but at the end of the day, if you really just take a look around, you're like, we're all 90 and we're singing about the high school sweetheart. This is weird.
Right.
Ain't working.
Well, so Backstreet Boys, right? They're kind of a nostalgia act now. In Sync, they're nostalgia, whatever. Backstreet Boys, I think, was it Meg who saw Backstreet Boys? And for her, it's fun to go and see them right now. She saw them when she was a kid. 20 years later, she's able to watch them now. I don't think the Backstreet Boys are still going to be a novelty act in 20 years, right? They'll be like, oh, that's really fucking sad. It's going to be like, oh, man, that's really rough to see. Those guys are still doing that same thing. They're still doing Backstreet's Back all right. They're 70 years old, and it's like
it certainly won't have new audience either. Like, so it's like be someone, like, if you had a job, you want to make money as well. But if you're never going to get a new audience in this case, right? Because you're a 90-year-old singing about childhood sweethearts, you're not getting new audiences. You're just still with this tiny little group. And in any job, you kind of want to have forward momentum. And this would just be giving you a snapshot of the past. Well, you have those albums and you have those games, and you can enjoy those games, and maybe you can remaster them and all that other stuff. But I would keep them there instead of having to try and make someone emulate that again. You can't recapture that. It was there already,
Yeah, to steal a line from Patrick Bet-David, the future's bright, man. I know it's a lot of doom and gloom, but there are talented people coming up every day, whether it's making video games or making content. And it doesn't make sense to, it's fun to go back to the past and play those shitty games that suck ass. It's fun. But at the same time, you always need to be looking forward and evolving and changing. And, I think that's what Niles is saying. And I appreciate that, And by the way, he's 100% right? I know, just personally from my experience, a lot of people who work in these creative spaces despise each other.
Started off as best friends and fucking mortal enemies almost every time.
Yep.
Almost
absolutely.
Every time. Craig, this may be a creative space thing. This might be something where people in the creative landscape totally get this immediately and just go, yeah, that's a pill we've always had to swallow. Like, we just know that, we're so used to it. And maybe an audience perspective sees it differently. And I'm not saying right or wrong in either way. But I think, like, you immediately said, yeah, and I'm shaking my head like, yeah, this all is right. Yeah. This is 100%.
I 100% agree. And by the way, a lot of those people who pretend like they do like each other actually very much despise each other, very much so. Yeah.